welcome you at BooksWagon. How do you like our stall?
It's lovely. It's so nice that you have so many books from different eras and different times and all that, because there's such a wealth of amazing literature through the ages.
So we would like to have your insights on this book as a writer. What inspired you?
Well, I think there are many layers of inspiration. So there's the most immediate layer of inspiration is that scene that strikes you, which is what happened to me with this book. And as I was telling you, the cover depicts that scene, which I saw when I was on a walk during the monsoon and I was smelling the fragrance of these amazing mulsari flowers. And then I had this vision of this girl walking along this avenue and all the emotion of that scene. So then I wrote a poem about it, because I used to write a lot of poetry at that time. But over time, the story kind of expanded in my head and it kept coming back to me. So then I was like, oh, this is more than just a poem. This is going to be the book that I write. So that was the most immediate layer of inspiration.
Great. So do you have a specific routine as a writer, or just give us some insights on your writing procedure?
So I obviously like to start with a big idea. You know, I know a lot of people can just start writing and they're like, I don't know where this is going. For me, I'm a bit more of a plotter than that. So I need to kind of know, why am I writing this story? What do I want to say? Where does it start and where will it end? And then you kind of have to fill the gaps in the middle. And I always say you have to strike a balance between being a plotter and a pantser, which is what they call someone who writes more spontaneously. Because some things can only come to you during the process of writing. I mean, you can't be so rigid about it, okay, I've plotted every single beat, every single character, because things happen unexpectedly and the story takes on a life of its own. And I think those are the best kind of stories.
That's absolutely right. So on the first page, as you have mentioned your mom, and you just told us that she is the inspiration behind this. Tell us a little about how she influences your writing and this story.
Well, she's my biggest inspiration in every way. I always say anything good in me only comes from her. So I think all the beautiful, finer things of life, and by finer things I mean the qualities that I think are, you know, considered old-fashioned these days, maybe like decency and honor and, you know, being more interested in the beautiful things in the world. All that I learned from her. And about relationships, because the book is a lot about relationships, about love, about different kinds of love between a man and a woman, but also between a parent and a child, between friends. So nobody understands or lives that love like she does. So everything I learned from her.
So how does your book, as you have said, it's more about the relationships. So how does that impact the psychology of readers, and you know, how do you align your perspective with your readers?
So what I really feel is that these days there is a lot of literature out there, a lot of content, not just literature but TV shows, movies, all that, about the darkness of the human mind, you know, about human nature and how twisted and complicated it can be, and how there's that potential for anyone to go the wrong way and then all kinds of things will happen. I wanted to write something which is the flip side of that, which is to show a different kind of potential in human beings, you know, a different kind of relationships, to show that there can be something better to aspire to, because I feel like literature and all kinds of art should also be aspirational. It should give you something to aspire to, something that inspires you. So I would really like readers to take away from this book that we live in an age where, you know, relationships can be very superficial and fleeting and everybody's in it for themselves, that maybe there's a different way to be, and maybe there's something else out there that we could explore.
So where we are in the modern world of speed dating, breakups, and you know, concept between love and money, and your books provide a subtle balance. So what are your perspective on the relationships?
So I think that as far as love is concerned, and any kind of love, again, it doesn't just have to be romantic love, I think that there's this beautiful concept we have in India called nibhawing the love, you know, and I think that is something which has fallen out of fashion. But I feel the only kind of love that is really worthwhile is a love that can go through the hurdles, something that can endure, even if things aren't great, even if two people are not together, but a love that can really endure, that can overcome all the challenges that life throws at badass, where you can live for something other than yourself, basically, where you can put someone before yourself. I think those relationships are the most important, and I think we should all have at least one or two such relationships in our lives, because life is so meaningless if you only live for yourself.
Exactly. What is there if we don't have relationships, right? So your books also revolves around Delhi and its essence. Tell us a little about your journey with this lovely city, Delhi.
See, it's a lovely city. It's also a very difficult city, as we all know. I don't know if you're from Delhi, but
Yeah.
you know, just why one timeline of my book, The Scent of Fallen Stars, is set in 1995. But I didn't always love Delhi. When growing up, it wasn't a very exciting place to be in. It was a little placid, a little like slow, and I used to always think that life is somewhere out there in America or something like that, where there's so much more going on and there's all this new stuff. You know how you are when you're a kid, then you watch all these movies and things, and that's what you think of. So it's only when I left Delhi and I went to Canada and I stayed there for a year that I really understood what Delhi means to me. So then I started realizing, like, oh, there is something in this city that is not there anywhere else. Even just this sense of history, because I lived in Vancouver, which is a very relatively new kind of city, and it's nothing compared to Delhi, which is so chaotic and which has so many layers upon layers of history, and every corner you turn you see something else, you find something else, and it's a city that you can never slot into any box, because it's so many different cities actually all in one. So I really wanted to show that in the book, and the Scent of Fallen Stars in so many ways is my ode to Delhi, to this city that I had to learn to love, and now I can't imagine any other place being home.
That's lovely. Lastly, I would like to ask you that, one key takeaway for the readers from this book, and tell us a little about your future interviews.
So one key takeaway would be, I think, like I was touched on before, that there could be a different way to be. We don't always have to maybe follow our first instinct or most superficial instinct. That life can have more meaning than that, maybe, and that relationships there's something else out there other than this swipe left, swipe right, and like look for pleasure for yourself all the time. I would like people to feel like maybe these values that are now considered old-fashioned, like I was saying, like honor and decency and this ability to nibhao and to really commit, that maybe there's something there in these values. We shouldn't just turn our backs on everything that we think is old-fashioned, because there were a lot of wonderful things also in the past. And sorry, your second question
Was about your upcoming project.
Yes, so I have my second manuscript is actually ready, and it is a gothic fiction manuscript, and it's quite different from this one because that explores a more complicated side of family relationships, and it's set in the Himalayas in a fictional town. And let's see, I hope that I can have more to share about that in the future.
That is great. So lastly, will you like to give a shout out to BooksWagon?
Yes, absolutely. BooksWagon is this amazing, massive platform where you can find all your favorite books, so please do check them out. Thank you.
It was a lovely interview, and you're looking too pretty.
Oh, thank you.
Intrigued by your personality.
Thank you so much.